How does Georgia plan to put pressure on the quarterback in 2025? How is Georgia going to get sacks? Who are their edge rushers going to be? Who's going to be on this defensive line? All of that is the big question right now. Just looking ahead, way too early, looking ahead at the 2025 Georgia football team is how are they going to get pressure on the quarterback? How is this front seven going to look, and who's going to be on it, right? A lot of guys going to the draft, and I'm gonna talk about the production that's going to the draft. It's Matt, on paper it's not great, and talent-wise it might not be great either when you just think about how good some of these guys are. But the big thing in this happened a couple of days ago, 3 days ago. Damon Wilson entering the transfer portal. It's rumored that Ohio State is the team that he is looking to go to. So when, real quick, my tidbit on that, if you're Damon Wilson, I thought Damon Wilson was a playmaker that was getting better. I thought that he was going to have an absolutely huge role on Georgia's team in 2025. And I think, obviously, Ohio State has a very good shot at winning the national championship this season, but it's a lateral move for Damon Wilson. It's not like he's going to a situation that's significantly better. I mean, he could have been one of the primary, potentially the primary edge rusher for Georgia in 2025. So a little puzzling. You look at that and you think it might be about money, and that's just where we're at. But if it was about opportunity, I'm surprised. I'm surprised if Georgia and Kirby and them were saying, hey, man, your opportunity is not here. I'd be surprised about that. So Damon Wilson via the portal. Stackhouse, Brinson, draft. Mykel Williams, Jalen Walker, draft. Chaz Chambliss, draft. Georgia is losing a lot of production in the front seven. Smile London obviously going to the NFL draft as well from that middle linebacker position. You don't worry about the middle linebacker position as much as any other group in the front seven for Georgia, as that's the one I think that they've done the best recruiting and developing the last couple of years. And I think that in terms of 2025, they're definitely fine at that spot with the personnel that they have. But man, you think about this front seven, and to me, just, it's January. We're 8 months away from this thing. That's the most concerning spot right now, is that front seven, and specifically, how are they going to get pressure on the quarterback? That's the question. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post going to try to answer it for you. Please answer my question. Will you sign up for the newsletter? Please answer that with a yes. At least check it out with the link in the description down below. That's all I ask you to do for Dawg Post for us. Jalen Walker, Mykel Williams, Chaz Chambliss, these guys, look, they kind of just are farmed at Georgia. When you think about, okay, they're always going to have studs. You feel like there's always going to be a Mykel Williams or a Jalen Walker, a guy that's just probably going to end up being a first-round pick and, has 6.5 sacks. So, that's what Jalen Walker was. Right now, it doesn't really look like Georgia has that for 2025. And I look, and I'm doing the math here, and I'm sitting here, sacks. Right, obviously sacks are not the end-all be-all. Pressures are, and I don't have advanced pressure stats in front of me. But when you think about the actual tangible sack number, Georgia got to the quarterback 37 times. That's fine, right? That's about what you want. You think you could get a little bit better out of a Georgia team, but we're talking about elite numbers, and this was a very good number, 37. 29 of those sacks, 78.4% of that production is gone. So Georgia has to replace nearly 80% of its sack production, right? 6.5 from Jalen Walker, 6.5 from Chaz Chambliss, 3 from Smile Monda, 3 from Damon Wilson, who's decided to transfer, 3 from Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins, who's going to the NFL, 5 from Mykel Williams. So you get my point there. Who are they going to be the pass rushers? Well, I think Gabe Harris is going to be a big contributor on this football team. He's someone who, in the spring last year, you saw at G-Day, Gabe Harris was a guy that popped. To me, he popped. And he was in his sophomore season this past year, second year at Georgia. This will be his third year at Georgia. He's wearing number 29, outside linebacker. To me, Gabe Harris will be a guy that gets called on as someone who has to step up for Georgia this offseason as a pass rusher. I've got other questions. I think in the middle, you're going to see a lot of Christian Miller, who announced he was coming back. You're going to see a lot of Jordan Hall. These are pretty big recruits. Jordan Hall wearing number 44, if you're not familiar. Christian Miller, 52. You should be familiar with him. Xavier McLeod coming back, the former transfer from South Carolina. They've got a lot of guys from this past freshman class. I think that on the defensive line, look, with Ingram Dawkins and Micah Williams leaving immediately, they need someone new to kind of play that defensive end role. I think that you're probably going to see number 99, who was a true freshman this past season. He'll likely be a redshirt freshman this coming season. Joseph Jonah-Jonye, recruit from Texas. He's good. I think he's really good. Someone that you should definitely keep an eye on. Big, long, right, 6'5" kind of frame. But this is, a position where there's not a ton of guys out there in the portal. And we've seen a couple of years ago, or last class, you saw Walter Nolan, Nick Scorton, guys like that in the transfer portal. There aren't huge names left like that. In terms of this position group where Georgia's in need, but trouble is I won't say Georgia's in trouble until I really think they're in trouble. But this is not ideal, where you're not really having anyone in that front seven return. You just look up Georgia's depth chart from this past season, and a lot of the starters on defense are leaving in the front seven. I think in the middle linebacker room, like I mentioned, Raylan Wilson and C.J. Allen are going to play a lot. True freshman from this last season, Chris Cole, going to play a lot. And to me, he's someone who I think they could use in a somewhat hybrid role, somewhat similar to Jalen Walker. Number 18, Chris Cole from this past season. I think he clearly was the best of, a linebacker class that included Justin Williams last year, a 5-star as well. It was Cole that was getting out there and that was subbing in. You'll see more Chris Cole this coming season, and you may see him a little bit more in a pass rush role as well. I wouldn't be completely surprised. A true freshman from this past season, number 33, Quintavious Johnson. Not this gigantic recruit, but someone that did really well in spring and fall camp, and someone that really fought to climb the depth chart a little bit. So Quintavious Johnson, someone you'll likely see out there, at least in some packages, would be my guess. But no, Georgia's lost a lot in the portal, and to me, or through the draft, and Damon Wilson in the portal, to me, he was kind of the piece where you just penciled him in. Yeah, he's going to be a starter. He's going to be out there a lot. I do think it complicates Georgia's situation a little bit with him ultimately deciding to enter the portal. Now, I guess it's not too late for him to decide if he wants to come back, and if you're Georgia, I think that some of your time and resources and effort should be into looking into that. I think he was a playmaker, and I think that he's going to make plays at Ohio State if that is where he chooses to go. But right now, on paper, you look at this Georgia front seven and you say, they've got a lot to replace. Freshmen don't always play. Could you get freshmen from this current class playing? Elijah Griffin, 5-star recruit, defensive lineman. Will he get playing time immediately? He is supposed to be this next great interior defensive lineman. Now Georgia's got a lot of those guys, but there's a lot of hype around Elijah Griffin. Isaiah Gibson, 5-star edge rusher from Warner Robins. Does he get on the field as a true freshman? Zayden Walker, inside linebacker. I don't know as much with him, just because I think that they've got Justin Williams, who's going to play more. They've got Chris Cole, obviously. C.J. Allen. They're solid at that position. I've been working on trying to pronounce this name, but another edge rusher, a couple of edge rushers as well in this class. First of all, Chase Linton, but the other one, Darren Ikinibon. I've been working on pronouncing his name. If you're not familiar, he is the edge rusher, 6'5" edge rusher that is from New Jersey. That's a 4-star in this current class for Georgia. So they've got guys coming in, and this might be one of those years where you look at it and say, hey, one of these freshman edge rushers or defensive linemen, front seven guys, might have to play. But at the outside linebacker spot specifically, I think there is a question. I think at this point you can kind of pencil in Gabe Harris, number 29, but you do question, is it going to be Quintavious Johnson? Is it going to be that they move Chris Cole over there? Is it going to be that Isaiah Gibson starts as a true freshman? They're missing at that edge rusher, outside linebacker spot, someone that is, for the most part, going after the quarterback and not in coverage as much. That's a spot that to me, they're lacking in a little bit. And it's getting later into this portal process to where there just aren't those guys out there on the market that are going to come in and be able to make an impact for Georgia immediately. Losing a ton of defensive production. This was a defense this past season that was really good and was probably good enough for them to win the national championship, a good enough defense for that. The offense was not good enough for that. And that's what ended up hurting Georgia. Will it be vice versa? Because when you look at this Georgia offense, you think, should improve, right? From 24 to 25. The defense, you got questions. I think that they have some answers to other questions in other areas on the defense. This is the one where I'm not quite sure if it's figured out yet. Good thing it's January. Right? But real question for Georgia is, will they replenish the pass rush? Because that was a spot that was somewhat inconsistent, but won them some games in 24. Those guys are gone. And it's going to be a different look up front for Georgia next season. Will they be good enough? We don't know.